Yo, hello, good morning. How is everybody? My name is Jacob Davidson. I'm a legal layman in this show where I try to learn the law and educate while I'm learning. And today, we're back to the Federalist Papers. Hold on. Got the chats. Got the Rumble rant. I am so compelled to do like gaming streams because I've been playing a mod for a game and it's been super fun. And I love it. Rip. All right, so today we're going back to the Federalist Papers. So hell yeah. Remember, we were on Federalist 10 before I stopped, and it's a continued subject. So without further ado, I will put us back on the Federalist Papers. I'm now live. Pop up chat. I like it overall. Hold on. All right, let's get to it. So in the previous version, or the previous Federalist paper, there's probably an argument. It's the anti-federalists. I think they were addressing. Among Federalist number 10, the same subject continued. The Union as a safeguard against domestic faction and insurrection. From the New York Packet, Friday, November 23rd, 1787. Author James Madison. To the people of the state of New York, among the numerous advantages promised by a well-constructed union, none deserves to be more accurately developed than its tendency to break and control the violence of faction. The friend of popular government never finds himself to be so much alarmed for their character and fate as when he contemplates their propensity to this dangerous vice. He will not fail, therefore, to set a due value on any plan which, without violating the principles to which he is attached, provides a proper cure for it. The instability, injustice, and confusion introduced into the public councils have in truth been the mortal disease under which popular governments have everywhere perished. As they continue to be the favorite and fruitful topics from which the diversity to liberty derive their most specious declamations. The valuable improvements made by the American constitutions on the popular models, both ancient and modern, cannot certainly be too much admired, but it would be an unwarrantable partiality to contend that they have as effectually obviated the danger on this side as was wished and expected. Complaints are everywhere heard from our most considerate and virtuous citizens, equally the friends of public and private faith, and the public and personal liberty, that our governments are too unstable, that the public good is disregarded in the conflicts of rival parties, and that measures are too often decided not according to the rules of justice and rights of the minor party, but by the superior force of an uninterested and overbearing majority. However anxiously we may wish that these complaints had no foundation, the evidence of known facts will not permit us to deny that they are in some degree true. It will be found, indeed, on a candid review of our situation, that some of the distresses under which we labor have been erroneously charged on the operations of our government. But it will be found at the same time that other causes will not alone account for many of our heaviest misfortunes, and particularly for that prevailing and increasing distrust of public engagements and alarm for private rights, which are echoed from one end of the continent to the other. These must be chiefly, if not wholly, effects of the unsteadiness and injustice in which a factious spirit has tainted our public administrations. By faction, I understand a number of citizens, whether amounting to a majority or a minority of the whole, who are united and actuated by some common impulse of passion or of interest, adverse to the rights of other citizens or to the permanent and aggregate interests of the community. These are the two methods of curing the mischief of faction, the one by removing its cause, the other by controlling its effects. There are again two methods of removing the causes of faction. The one by destroying the liberty which is essential to its existence, the other by giving every citizen the same opinion, the same passion, and the same interest. It could never be truly said then of the first remedy that it was worse than the disease. Liberty is to faction what air is to fire, an element without which it instantly an ailment without which it instantly expires. God damn it. An ailment without which it instantly expires. But it could not be less folly to abolish liberty, which is essential to political life, because it nourishes faction, than it would be to wish the annihilation of air, which is essential to animal, because it imparts to fire its destructive agency. The second expedient is as impracticable as the first would be unwise. As long as the reason of man continues fallible, and he is at liberty to exercise it, different opinions will be formed. As long as the connection subsists between his reason and his self-love, his opinions and his passions will have reciprocal influence on each other, and the former will be objects to which the latter will attach themselves. The diversity in the faculties of men from which the rights of property originate is not less than an insuperable obstacle to a uniformity of interest. The protection of these faculties is the first object of government. From the protection of different and unequal faculties of acquiring property, the possession of different degrees and kinds of property immediately results, and from the influence of these on the sentiments and views of the respective proprietors, ensues the division of the society into different interests and parties. The latent causes of factions are thus known. In the nature of man, we see them everywhere brought into different degrees of activity, according to different circumstances of society, of civil society. A zeal for different opinions concerning religion, concerning government, and many other points, as well as speculation as of practice, an attachment to different leaders ambitiously contending for preeminence and power, or to persons of other descriptions whose fortunes have been interesting to the human passion, have in turn divided mankind into parties, inflamed them with mutual animosity, and rendered them much more disposed to vex and oppress each other than to cooperate for the common good. So strong is this propensity of mankind to fall into mutual animosities that there were no substantial occasion presents itself, the most frivolous and fanciful distinction to have been sufficient to kindle their unfriendly passions, to excite their most violent conflicts. But the most common and durable source of factions have been various and unequal distribution of property. Those who hold those who are without property have ever formed distinct interest in society. Those who are creditors and those who are debtors fall under a like discrimination. A landed interest, a manufactured interest, a mercantile interest, a moneyed interest, and with many lesser interests, grow up necessity in civilized nations, and divide them into different classes, actuated by different sentiments and views. The regulations of these various and interfering interests from the principal task of modern legislation and involves the spirits of party and factions in the necessary and ordinary operations of the government. No man is allowed to be a judge in his own cause, because his interest would certainly bias his judgment, and not improbably corrupt his integrity. With equal, nay, with greater reason, a body of men who are unfit to be both judge and parties at the same time, yet what are many of the most important acts of legislation, but so many judicial determinations, not indeed concerning the rights of the single person, but concerning the rights of large bodies of citizens, and what are the different classes of legislatures, and what are different classes of legislators? Okay, so I completely fucked this up. With equal, nay, with greater reason, of a body of men are unfit to be both judges and parties at the same time. Yet, what are the many of the most important acts of legislation, but so many judicial determinations, not indeed concerned with the rights of the single person, but concerning the rights of large bodies of citizens? And what are the different classes of legislators, but advocates and parties of the causes of which they determine? Is a law proposed concerning private debts? It is a question to which the creditors and parties are parties at the same on one side, and the debtors on the other. Justice ought to hold the balance between them. Yet the parties are and must be themselves the judges. The most numerous party, or in other words, the most powerful faction, must be expected to prevail. Shall domestic manufacturers be encouraged, and in what degree by restrictions on foreign manufacturers, are questions which would be Shall domestic manufacturers be encouraged, and in what degree by restrictions in foreign manufacture? Are questions what? Why did he question mark and then not capital? Are questions which would be differently decided by the landed and the manufactured classes, and probably by neither, with a sole regard to justice and the public good? What? So that's a statement. Good fucking god. I'm already reading this badly. Still a little hot. Are questions which would be differently decided by the landed and the manufactured classes, and probably by neither, with sole regard to justice and the public good. The apportionment of taxes on various descriptions of property is an act which seems to require the most exact, important to impartiality. If there is perhaps no legislative act in which greater opportunity and temptation are given to a predominant party to trample on the rules of justice, every shilling with which they overburden the inferior number is a shilling saved to their own pocket. It is in vain to say that enlightened statesmen will be able to adjust these clashing interests and render them all subservient to the public good. Enlightened statesmen will not always be at the helm, nor in many cases can such an adjustment be made at all without taking into view the direct and remote considerations which will rarely prevail over the immediate interest which one party may find in disregarding the rights of another or the good of the whole. The inference to which we are brought is that the causes of factions cannot be removed, and that the relief is only to be sought in the means of controlling its effect. If a faction consists of a less than majority, relief is supplied by the Republican principle, which enables the majority to defeat its sinister views by a regular vote. It may clog the administration, it may convulse the society. It may clog the administration, it may convulse the society, but it will be unable to mask its violence under the forms of the Constitution. When the majority is included, a faction, the form of popular government, and the other hand, enables it to sacrifice to its ruling passion or interest both the public good and the rights of other citizens. To secure the public good and private rights against the danger of such faction, and at the same time to preserve the spirit of the form of popular government, is then the great object to which our inquiries are directed. Let me add that is the great desideratum 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 desideratum, something that is needed or wanted. It is a great need or want by which this form of government can be rescued from the opprobrium under which it has so long labored, and be recommended the esteemed and adoption of mankind. Things not wanted or not needed. Harsh criticism or censure. Public disgrace arising from someone's shameful act. Oh, shame. By what means is this object unattainable? Evidently by one of two only. Either the existence of the same passion or interest in a majority at the same time must be prevented, or the majority having chose coexisting passion or interest must be rendered by their number and local situation. Local situation unable to concert and carry into effect schemes of oppression. If the impulse and the opportunity be suffered to coincide, we'll know that neither moral nor religious motives can be relied on as an adequate control. They are not found to be such on the injustice and violence of individuals, and lose their efficacy in proportion to the number combined together, that is, in proportion as their efficacy becomes needful. From this view of the subject, it may be concluded that a pure democracy, by which I mean a society consisting of a small number of citizens who assemble and administer the government in person, can admit of no cure for the mischief of factions. A common passion or interest will, in almost every case, be felt by the majority of the whole. Communication and concert result from the form of government itself, and there is nothing to check the inducement to sacrifice the weaker party or an obnoxious individual. Hence, it is that such democracies have ever been spectacles of turbulence and contention, have ever been found incompatible with personal securities or the right of property, and have in general been as short in their lives as they have been violent in their deaths. Theoretic politicians who have patronized this species of government have erroneously supposed that by reducing mankind to a perfect equality in their political rights, they would at the same time be perfectly equalized in assimilation in their possessions, their opinions, and their passions. A republic, by which I mean a government in which the scheme of representation takes place, opens a different prospect and promises the cure for which we are seeking. Let us examine the point in which various form of pure democracies, in which it varies from pure democracies, and we shall comprehend both the nature of the cure and the efficacy which it must derive from the union. I need to make a post about this. To all the idiots. What's the T-Man on about? Oh crap. Alright, I'm gonna go to camera. Pre-order. That's a cart. Continue. No, thank you. Not interested. No, thank you. Not interested. Dragon. Damn it. $60. All right. God damn. I guess I gotta ask how much my grandparents pay for how much they pay for coffee. All right. Sorry about that. I'm unfocused today. All right. The two we shall comprehend the nature. Okay. The two great points of difference between a democracy and a republic are first the delegation of governments, and the latter to a small number of citizens elected by the rest. Second, the greater number of citizens in greater sphere of country over which the latter may be extended. The effect of the first difference is, on the one hand, to refine and enlarge public views by passing them through the medium of the chosen body of citizens, whose wisdom may best discern the true interests of their country, and whose patriotism and love of justice will be least likely to sacrifice it to the temporary or partial consideration. Under such a regulation, it may well happen that the public voice pronounced by the representatives of the people will be more consonant to the public good than if pronounced by the people themselves, convened for the purpose. On the other hand, the effect may invert men of factious temper, a factious temper, or a local prejudice, or of sinister design, may by intrigue, by corruption, or by other means, first obtain the suffrage and then betray the interest of the people. The question resulting is whether a small or extensive republic or smaller or extensive republics are more favorable to the election of popular guardians of the public weal, and it is clearly decided in favor of the latter by two obvious considerations. In the first, it is remarked that however small the republic may be, the representative must be raised to a certain number in order to guard against the cabal of a few, and that however large it may be, they must be limited to a certain number in order to guard against the confusion of a multitude. Hence the number of representations in two cases not being in a proportion to that of the two constituents. Being proportionally greater in a small republic, it follows that if the proportions of fit characters be not less in the large than in the small republic, the form will present a greater option and consideration, a greater probability of a fit choice. In the next place, as each representative will be chosen by a greater number of citizens in the large than in the small republic, it'll be more difficult for unworthy candidates to practice with success the vicious arts by which elections are too often carried, and the suffrage of the people being more free will be more likely to center in men who possess the most attractive merit and the most diffused and established characters. It must be confessed that in this, as in most other cases, there is a mean on both sides of which inconveniences will be found to lie. By enlarging too much the number of electors, you render the representative too little acquainted with their local circumstances, and lesser interest, as by reducing it too much. You render them unduly attached to these, and too little to comprehend and pursue the great and national objects. The federal constitution forms a happy combination in this respect. a great and aggregate interest from being referred to the national and local practical and local particular to the state legislatures. The other point of difference is the greater number of citizens and extent of territory which may be brought within the compass of Republican than of Democratic government. And it is this circumstance principally which renders factious combinations less to be dreaded in the former than in the latter. The smaller the society, the fewer probability will be the distinct parties and interests composing it. The fewer the distinct parties and interests, the more frequently will a majority be found of the same party, and the smaller the number of individuals composing a majority, and the smaller the compass within which they are placed, the more easily will they concert and execute their plans of oppression. Hold on. The smaller the society, the fewer probably will be distinct parties and interests composing it. The fewer the distinct parties and interests, the more frequently will the majority be found of the same party. Okay. And you take in a greater variety of parties and interests, you make it less probable that a majority of the whole will have a common motive to invade the rights of other citizens. Or if such a common motive exists, it'll be more difficult for all who feel it discover their own strength and to act in unison with each other. Besides other impediments, it may be remarked that where there is a conscious or unjust or dishonorable communication is always checked by distrust in proportion to the number of whose concurrence is necessary. Hence, it clearly appears that the same advantage which a republic has over democracy, it controls the effects of a faction, is enjoyed by a large over a small republic, is enjoyed by the union over the states composing it. Does the advantage consist in the substitution of representation whose enlightened views and virtuous sentiments render them superior to the local prejudices and schemes of injustice? It will not be denied that the representation of the union will be the most likely to possess these requisite endowments. Does it consist in greater security afforded by a greater variety of parties against the event of one party being able to outnumber and oppress the rest? In an equal degree, does the increased variety of parties comprised within the union increase the security? Does it, in fine, consist the greater obstacles opposed to the concert and accomplishments of the secret wishes of an unjust and uninterested majority? Here again, the extent of the union gives its most palpable advantage. The influence of the palpable advantage is this. The influence of factious leaders may kindle the flame within their particular states, but will be unable to spread a general conflagration through the other states. Conflagration is defined as scorching or burning. And I know this for many reasons. A religious sect may degenerate into a political faction in a part of the Confederacy, but the variety of sects dispersed over an entire face of it must secure the national council against any danger from the source. A rage for paper money, for an abolition of debts, for an equal division of property, or for other improper or wicked projects, will be less apt to pervade the whole body of the union than a particular member of it. In the same proportion as such a malady is more likely to taint a particular county or district than an entire state. Ah. In the extent and proper structure of the Union, therefore, we behold a Republican remedy for the disease most incident to Republican government. And according to the degree of pleasure and pride we feel in being Republican, ought to be our zeal in cherishing the spirit and supporting the character of the Federalists. I need to stop that. Federalist 10, 1 through 10. The utility of the Union in respect to commercial relations and a navy. How many of these will continue? Good God. So we've got 5 independent journal entries, and then from then on, its subject continued. For the Independent Journal, author Alexander Hamilton, to the people of the state of New York. The importance of the Union in a commercial light is one of those points about which there is least room to entertain a difference of opinion, and which has in fact commanded the most general assent of men who have any acquaintance with the subject. This applies as well to our intercourse with foreign countries as with each other. There are appearances to author a supposition that the adventure spirit, which distinguishes the commercial character of America, has already excited uneasy sensation in several of the maritime powers of Europe. They seem to be apprehensive of our too great influence in that carrying trade, which is the support of their navigation and the foundation of their naval strength. Those of them which have colonies in America look forward to what this country is capable of becoming, with painful solicitude. They foresee the dangers that may threaten their American dominions from the neighborhood of states which have all disposition and would possess all the means requisite to the creation of powerful marine. Impressions of these kind will naturally indicate the policy of fostering division among us, and of depriving us as far as possible of an active commerce in our own bottoms. This would answer the threefold purpose of preventing our interference in their navigation, of monopolizing and profits of our trade, and of clipping the wings by which we might soar to a dangerous greatness. Did not prudence forbid the details, it would not be difficult to trace by facts the workings of this policy to the cabinets of ministers. If we continue united, we may counteract a policy so unfriendly to our prosperity in a variety of ways. By prohibiting regulations extending At the same time, throughout the state, we may oblige foreign countries to bid against each other for the privileges of our markets. This assertion will not appear chimerical to those who are able to appreciate the importance of the markets of 3 million people, increasing in rapid progression. Increasing in rapid progression for the most part exclusively addicted to agriculture, and likely from local circumstances to remain so to any manufacturing nation. And the immense difference there would be to trade and navigation of such nation, between a direct communication in its own ships and an indirect conveyance of its products and returns to and from America in the ships of other country. Oh, okay. I realized I read that without actually reading it. To any manufacturing nation, an immense difference there would be the trade and navigation of such a nation. In direct communications in its own ship and indirect conveyance of its. Suppose, for instance, we had a government in America capable of excluding Great Britain, with whom we have had at present no treaty of commerce, from all of our ports. What would be the probable operation of this step upon her politics? Would it not enable us to negotiate with the fairest prospects of success for commercial privileges of the most valuable and extensive kind in the dominions of that kingdom? When these questions had been asked upon other occasions, they have received a plausible but not solid or satisfactory answer. It has been said that the prohibitions on our part would produce no change in the system of Britain, because she could prosecute her trade with us through the medium of the Dutch, who would be her immediate customer and paymasters for those articles which were wanted for the supply of our markets. But would not her navigation be materially injured by the loss of the important advantage of being her own carrier in that trade? Would not the principal part of its profits be intercepted by the Dutch as a compensation for their agency and risk? Would not the mere circumstance of freight occasion a considerable deduction? Will not so circuitous a route longer than the most direct way? Circuitous. Would not so circuitous and intercourse facilitate the competitions of other nations by enhancing the price of British commodities in our markets, and by transferring to other hands the management of this interesting branch of the British commerce? A mature consideration of the objects suggested by these questions will justify a belief that the real disadvantage to Britain from such a state of things, conspiring with prepossession of great part of the nation in favor of the American trade, and with the importunities of the West Indian Islands, would produce a relaxation in our present system, and would let us into the enjoyment of privileges in the market of those islands, elsewhere, from which our trade would derive the most substantial benefits. Such a point gained from the British government which could not be expected without an equivalent in exemption and immunities in our markets would be likely to have a correspondent effect on the conduct of other nations, which would not be inclined to see themselves altogether supplanted in our trade. Damn, this is crap. Damn, this is so interesting. God damn it, it's chat functions not. Interest Stone, and I'm from the hood, no caption. What in the hell? Well, welcome to the show, the big one. And holy shit! Hell yeah! I'm gonna share this out because I'm super happy by it. No shit. Yeah, and it's so interesting. I'm from the hood. No, can't see. Why does that make me laugh? A mature consideration. Wait, hold on. Yeah, I already read that. Fuck. A further resource from influencing the conduct of European nations towards us, and this suspect would arise from the establishment of a federal navy. There can be no doubt that the continuance of the Union under an efficient government would put it in our power at a period not very distant to create a navy which if it could not vie with those of great maritime powers, would at least be of a respectable weight if thrown into the scales of either of two contending parties. The other day I smoked so much weed that my friends thought I was trying to commit suicide by crop. That is fantastic. I made it. I figured that's very good news. Very good news. I need to talk to Rumble about the Rumble gaming thing because I might start streaming my gameplay on my days off. It's kind of myself having fun. I need to make sure of a few things though. I don't know. All this politics makes me want to step away from it for a minute, play games for everybody, and then come back to it later. Gotta get your game on. Dude, I got this mod for Elden Ring called Convergence. It's been fantastic. It's so fun. I got a sword that basically makes me go no personnel kid and kills everyone. This would be merely this would be more peculiarly the case in relation to operations in the West Indies. A few ships of the line sent opportunities to the reinforcement of either side would often be sufficient to decide the fate of a campaign. On the event of which interests of the greatest magnitude were suspended, our position is, in this respect, a most commanding one. And if to this consideration we add that the usefulness of supplies from this country in the prosecution of military operation in the West Indies, it will readily be perceived that a situation so favorable would enable us to bargain with the great advantage of commercial privileges A price would be set not only upon our friendship, but upon our neutrality by a steady adherence to the Union. We may hope ere long to become the arbiter of Europe and America, and to be able to incline the balance of European competition in this part of the world as our interests may dictate. Ships of the line or of the time? Ships of the time. We like the battleships. Ships of the line. Point 100 cannons. But in the reverse of this eligible situation, ships of the line. Okay. But in the reverse situation, or of this eligible situation, we may discover that the rivalship of the parties would make them check upon each other and would frustrate all the tempting advantages which nature has kindly placed within our reach. In a state so significant, our commerce would be prey to a wanton intermeddlings of all nations at war with each other, who have nothing to fear from us, would with little scruples or remorse supply their wants by depredations on our property as often as it fell in their way. The rights of neutrality will only be respected when they are defended by adequate power. A nation despicable by its weakness forfeits even the privilege of being neutral. An act of attacking or plundering. Said in not so many words, the right of the people to keep and bear arms, even though this is way before the Bill of Rights was made into the Constitution. Still hot? If Alexander Hamilton is saying that you need to be armed or else you don't have a right to be, you don't get to be neutral. Of course, this is in context to a navy, but it applies similarly throughout. Under a vigorous national government, the natural strength and resources the country directed to a common interest would baffle all the combinations of European jealousy to restrain our growth. This situation would even take away the motives to such combinations by inducing an impracticability of success and active commerce and extensive navigation and flourishing marine would be the offspring of moral and physical necessity. We might defy the little arts of the little politicians to control or vary the irresistible and unchangeable course of nature. But in a state of disunion, these combinations might exist and might operate with success. It will be in the power of the maritime nations availing themselves of our universal impotence to prescribe the conditions of our political existence, and as they have a common interest in being our carriers, and still more in preventing our becoming theirs, they would in all probability combine to embarrass our navigation in such a manner as would in effect destroy it and confine us to a passive commerce. We should then be compelled to content ourselves with the first price of our commodities, and to see the profits of our trade snatched from us to enrich our enemies and prosecutors and persecutors. Why is there a typo in the Library of Congress. The unequal spirit of enterprises, which signalizes the genius of the American merchants and navigators, and which it is in itself an inexhaustible mine of national wealth, would be stifled and lost in poverty and disgrace, would overspread a country which, with wisdom, might make herself the administration and envy of the world. There are rights of great moment to the trade of America, which are rights of the Union. I allude to the fisheries, to the navigation of the Western Lakes, and to that of the Mississippi. The dissolution of the Confederacy would give room for a delicate question concerning the future existence of these rights, which, of the interest of more powerful partners, would hardly fail to solve to our disadvantage. The disposition of Spain with regard to the Mississippi needs no comment. France and Britain are concerned with us in the fisheries and view them as the utmost moment of their navigation. They, of course, would hardly remain long indifferent to that decided mastery, of which experience has shown us to be possessed in this valuable branch of traffic, and by which we are able to undersell those nations in their markets, or in their own markets, what more natural than they should be opposed to exclude from the list such dangerous competitors. The branch of trade ought not be considered as a partial benefit. All the navigating states may, in different degrees, advantageously participate in it, and under circumstances of greater extension of mercantile capital, would not be unlikely to do it. As a nursery of seamen, it now is, or when time shall have more nearly assimilated the principles of navigation of the several states, will become a universal resource to the establishment of a navy. It must be indispensable. Realize it's still hot. I know I've only been streaming for like an hour or so now, but I'm probably gonna wrap it up very early today. My energy is not there, and my reading capacity is equally as gone to shit. So, you know, not to give a bad show or less of a good show, but, you know, if I can't put up a good product, I don't really want to put up a bad product either. To this great national object, a Navy Union will contribute in various ways. Every institution will grow and flourish in proportion to the quantity and extent that means concentrated towards its formation and support. A navy of the United States, as it would embrace the resources of all, is an object far less remote than a navy of any single state or partial confederacy, which would only embrace the resources of a single part. It happens, indeed, the different portions of the Confederate America possesses each some peculiar advantage. For this essential establishment, the more southern states furnish in greater abundance certain kinds of naval stores, tar, pitch, and turpentine. Their wood for the construction of ships is also more solid and lasting texture. The difference in the duration of the ships of which a navy might be composed, if chiefly constructed of southern wood, would be of significant importance, either in the view of naval strength or of national economy. Some of the southern and of the middle states yields a greater plenty of iron, and of better quality. Seamen must chiefly be drawn from the northern hive. The necessity of naval protection and to the external or maritime commerce does not require a particular elucidation, no more than conduciveness of the species of commerce to the prosperity of a navy. An unrestrained intercourse between the United States themselves will advance the trade of which by an interchange of their respective productions, not only for the supply of reciprocal wants at home, but for the exportation to foreign markets. The veins of commerce in every part will be replenished and will acquire additional motion and vigor from this free circulation of the commodities of every part. Commercial enterprises will have a greater scope from the diversity in the productions of different states. When the staple of one fails from a bad harvest or unproductive crop, it can call to its aid the staple of another. The variety not less than the value of products for exportation contributes to the activity of foreign commerce. It can be conducted upon much better terms with a large number of materials of a given value than the small number of materials of the same value arising from the competitions of trade and from the fluctuations of markets. Particular articles may be in great demand in certain periods and unsaleable at others, may be in great demand in certain times and unsaleable at others. But if there be a variety of articles, it can scarcely happen that they should all be at one time in the latter predicament. And on this account, the operations of the merchant would be less liable to any consideration, obstructions, or stagnations. The speculative trader will at once perceive the force of these observations and will acknowledge that the aggregate balance of the commerce of the United States would bid fair to much more favorable than that of the 13 states without the union or partial unions. It may perhaps be replied to this that whether the states are united or that states are united or disunited, there would still be an intimate intercourse between them, which would answer the same ends. This intercourse would be fettered, interrupted, and narrowed by the multiplicity of causes, which in course of these papers have amply detailed. A unity of commercial as well as political interest can only result from a unity of government. There are other points of view in this subject might be placed of a striking and animating kind, but they would lead us too far into the regions of futurity and will involve topics not proper for a newspaper discussion. I shall briefly observe that our situation invites and our interest prompts us to aim at an ascendant in the system of American affairs. The world may politically as well as geographically be divided into 4 parts, each of a distinct set of interests. Unhappily for the other 3, Europe by her arms and by her navigations, by force and by fraud, has in different degrees extended her dominion over all. Africa, Asia, and America have successfully felt her domination. The superiority she has long maintained has tempted her to plume herself at the mistress of the world, to consider the rest of mankind as created for her benefit. Men admired as profound philosophers in direct terms attributed to her inhabitants of physical superiority, and have gravely asserted that all animals with them, the human species, with all them, the human species degenerate in America, that even dogs cease to bark after having breathed a while in our atmosphere. Okay. Facts have too long supported these arrogant pretensions of the Europeans. It belongs to us to vindicate the honor of the human race and to teach that, assuming brother moderation, union will enable us to do it. This union will add another victim to his triumph. Let America disdain to be the instrument of Europeans' greatness. Let the 13 states bound together in a strict and indissoluble union concur in erecting one great American system, superior to the control of all transatlantic force or influence, and able to dictate the terms of the connection between the new and the old world. Hamilton slipping into that Henry Clay American system, despite him making it. I will be honest. Oh, I don't have energy. As you can probably tell from my lackluster reading skills, I am dead tired. With that, however, I'm going to end the show. But before I do that, let me introduce you guys to the Dragon's Treasure. The Dragon's Treasure is a haven for anime and tea lovers, and hopefully this tea will energize you. I think, if I remember right, one that I've been drinking, Magic Girl Venus. It's an orangey flavor. It's what I've been drinking. That's the one that I've actually bought. This is the right one. No. I grabbed the right one initially, and then I just grabbed it. Fuck. It's this one. I'm running out of it. I need to buy more. I'm dropping shit everywhere. But yeah, the Dragon's Treasure has this Magic Girl Venus. It tastes fantastic. Mine's not so good right now because I accidentally watered it down, and I was rebrewing it from earlier. It's good for a couple brews, but with how I watered it down and got the leaves everywhere, it's not as potent as it should be. Another name for treasure is booty, the dragon's booty. I love you, NC Native. Regardless, the reason why I'm not energized from this is because it's got no caffeine. It's an herbal thing. However, it still tastes fantastic, and I highly recommend it. I would... Okay, so it's not as hot. I'd highly recommend the Magical Venus. I'd highly recommend every tea. I'm not so keen on the spearmint. However, it's not a bad taste, and I recommend it as well, even if it's not quite my flavor. And I don't know. Yeah, pre-order, limited. Orders will start to be roasted and or grounded, then shipped the week of. Metric roll Venus comes with 0 penis. You don't have to say JK. I get that you're joking, man. You make good jokes. You kill it when you go JK. It's like, oh, damn. The most villainous of villains, still likely to enjoy coffee with their style. I enjoy your jokes. Don't worry about it. Knowing him, he probably took this picture with them in his little grinder and roaster. But yeah, if you're interested in tea, order some of the Dragon's Treasure, or you can get some of the first Dragon Treasure's tea pre-order. When you wonder what has given you so much flavorful energy this morning, you'll hear a whisper to you, "It was me, Theo. One sip and you'll be able to stop the world." May not be able to stop the world. They're shaped like honey smack cereals, those beans. Hell yeah. And they kind of do, they kind of have this like cereal shape to them, don't they? But yes, use code Layman at Dragon's Treasure for 10% off your purchases so you can enjoy fantastic tea with fantastic taste and savings. That's what I meant to say. I forgot to say code Layman. Code Layman. Code Layman for 10% off. Use my code. Pay me money. I might have to pour milk in them. I mean, you can pour milk in them anyway. Product slash mana. Oh shit. Damn it. Code Layman for 10% off. For 100% off, use code STICKUP. And before I wrap up, since that is what I'm going to be doing, I just want to show this very quickly. YouTube. Oh, what the fuck? Damn it. Man, I reached 100 and then it dropped. Damn it all. Ah, that sucks. Oh well. If you liked what you saw from the stream today, please go give the video a like on YouTube and on Rumble. I know it was pretty low energy, and I know I didn't really do a whole lot, and then I dipped after doing a read. However, I thought I'd have energy. You're close to 100 on Rumble. Yeah, I just need my YouTube followers on Rumble to follow, or my YouTube followers to follow me on Rumble, and I need like the 7 Rumble followers on my user that follow my user code layman or layman, legal layman channel. If each of my personalities had an account, you would have 100 followers. God damn it. My one fan. The 100 personality of the single schizo. Schizo moment. But yeah, follow my Rumble account, follow my YouTube account. If you're on the other, please just go and do it. It makes a world of difference to me. And I appreciate the support when I can get it. And I appreciate you guys watching. Like and subscribe on YouTube and on Rumble. I have a Twitter. It's Legal Layman with 2 N's on Twitter. And you can find me on locals at legallayman.locals.com, which is a place where you're able to support me with monthly subscriptions. And that would mean the most to me as well, because there I would get the most profit out of it, and I would be able to give you guys exclusive content because I'd be able to separate myself from my current job. So that would be fantastic. So remember, before I wrap up, use code Layman at Dragon's Treasure for at checkout at Dragon's Treasure for 10% off your purchase. Like on YouTube and on Rumble, follow on YouTube and on Rumble. Subscribe as well. Follow me on Twitter and at legallayman.locals.com. If you enjoyed the broadcast, I hope to see you guys soon. I'll do a video tomorrow. I'll probably be covering the news like I normally do. And I'll see you guys next time. See you guys.